See, that's what makes their pastel de nata here at Capri so good. Yeah, it's early, but, you know, who cares? So that's nice. So welcome back to Destination Eat Drink, the travel channel for foodies. Glad to have you. We're doing another video on pastel de nata. Last week, we visited some of the most famous pastelerias for pastel de nata, including Pastéis de Belém. This week, it's going to be some lesser-known pastelerias. They're probably well known in their neighborhoods, but not really as well known to tourists, and I'm going to share those with you today. They'll all be in Lisbon, with the exception of where we're starting today. We're starting at Capri, which is a pasteleria here in our city of Setúbal. It's about 40 minutes south of Lisbon. And this is one of my favorite pastelerias in our town. They've got good pastel de nata. The reason I usually come here is I get a mini pastel de nata. You can see here, I didn't get a mini today because they're sold out of them, unfortunately. But mini pastel de nata, I don't know, maybe a third the size of this. And I read an article in Eater, which is a really good resource if you like traveling and eating. It'll tell you interesting facts and stuff. It's a good site, I like it. But they wrote an article about pastel de nata in Lisbon, and one of the things that they said was how bogus the mini pastel de nata was. And I could not disagree more wholeheartedly. I like the mini pastel de nata. I've talked about this before, but really my favorite part of the pastel de nata is the crust. And so imagine when you get a mini pastel de nata, you get more crust to custard ratio. So that's why I like it, and I like the crust that you get here. So that's why I usually get the mini pastel de nata. Didn't have it today, but that's fine. The other thing that they said that I thought was really interesting was they suggested that when you go to Lisbon, you get a little glass of port with your pastel de nata. And I hadn't considered that before, although I've had port for breakfast with pastry when we were up in Porto. You can check out that video if you want to see that. Muscatel is very similar to port. It's a fortified sweet wine. It's made here in the Setúbal region. So it's very similar to port, but it's made down here. I like it a lot, and so instead of getting a port, I got a little muscatel to go with my pastel de nata. Yeah, it's early, but, you know, who cares? So that's nice. So let's try the pastel de nata. See, that's what makes their pastel de nata here at Capri so good. Is you get layers and layers and layers of flaky crust in there, so when you bite into it, it just crunch through all those layers. You got a nice custard filling, not straight out of the oven, but still tasty custard in that with our muscatel. That is tasty. Goes together really nicely. All right. Who knows, by the end of the day I might be asleep, but I'm not going to continually be drinking muscatel. We'll get some coffee too to get us jonesing and woken up for some more pastel de nata today. But this is a good start to our little pastel de nata crawl. This is Pasteleria Santo Antonio, and this bakery always has a special place in my heart because this is the very first place in Lisbon years ago that I tasted my first pastel de nata in Portugal. A tour guide brought us here. We hired her to do a private tour with us, and she brought us here, and I was obviously very pleased with my pastel de nata. It's called Pasteleria Santo Antonio because we're not far from the church of St. Anthony. And a couple of things to clear up about St. Anthony when you come here. First of all, you should go to the church. It's really interesting. There's a big statue of St. Anthony out front. A lot of people think St. Anthony is from Italy because he's commonly known as St. Anthony of Padua, which is a city in Italy and a place where he did a lot of his work. But actually he was born here in Lisbon, and the place where he was born is where the church was eventually constructed, right over the house where he was born. So St. Anthony is a big deal here in Lisbon. They also have a St. Anthony festival every summer here in Lisbon, and that leads to the second thing about St. Anthony that you should know, which is that a lot of people think he's the patron saint of Lisbon. He's not. He's very revered here, but he's not the patron saint of Lisbon. So anyway, this place is very well respected when it comes to pastel de nata. A few years ago it won Best Pastel de Nata in Lisbon. Normally it's crowded, but we're here early enough that it's not too crowded. In fact, we were the only people up here. A little family just came upstairs. But they crank out a lot of pastel de natas here, and it's going to be a hot day in Lisbon, so I got a cafe com gelo, which just means an iced coffee. That's going to do the trick. All right, so let's try their pastel de nata. That's why I love the pastel de natas here. They have the most amazing flaky crust here. Crispy, never gummy, perfect. And then of course you have the nice custard filling, and you can see it's on the verge of being runny, which is exactly what you want. So this one is still warm. It's not right out of the oven. They didn't have a batch that was coming right out of the oven, and I wanted to get one, and you know, we got places to be today. So anyway, this is a great place to come. If you're coming to Lisbon, you're probably going to go to the St. Anthony Church. The Cathedral of Lisbon is also close by. A lot of tourists go there as well, and this isn't far from that. So this is a good spot to come to get a pastel de nata. It's not one of the top places that you read about. It's when you read about pastel de natas in Lisbon, but still, it is a very well-respected bakery and a place you should definitely come when you're in Lisbon. This is the Roman Theatre Museum of Lisbon. This place used to be on top of where I'm standing right now, a 5-story building. But in the 20th century, they discovered, or maybe again realized, there were Roman ruins under here. Look, Lisbon was a Roman city, and for hundreds of years. And probably wherever you drop a shovel, you're going to find Roman ruins. But they found this and discovered that it was a theater, a little amphitheater. So demolished the building and excavated what you see behind me, which is an interesting Roman theater. And this is right around the corner from Pasteleria Santo Antonio. So don't miss this, because it's a place you could easily, not see, not be aware of, because it's not really all that well known. There's no admission. There's no one standing here taking tickets. It's just a place that you can walk into and look around. But it's fascinating to really get an idea of what Lisbon was like when it was a Roman city 2,000 years ago or so. You can imagine people sitting here, watching some kind of performance. So definitely a place that you want to see when you come to Lisbon and you get your pastel de nata, get a course of culture while you're walking to your next stop. All right, so we came all the way out to Pasteleria do Padeiro. We took the metro all the way out to Pontinha. It's quite a distance out, almost to the end of the line. This neighborhood's the suburbs, man. Yeah, we're still in Lisbon, but this is a real neighborhood in Lisbon. You're not going to see a tourist out here, I guarantee it, pretty much. This place won Best Pastel de Nata in the entire city of Lisbon in 2022. So that's why I came all the way out here. Never been to this neighborhood before, and I'm going to try their Pastel de Nata, see how it stacks up. Crispy crust, really nice, buttery. Look how caramelized that is on the bottom. I would say not as flaky as Santo Antonio's, but still really good. I'd say maybe you need to get here earlier, or maybe wait till one comes out of the oven, because this one is not hot, it's not warm. But I can tell it's still a really good pastel de nata. She asked me if I wanted canela with it, and that means cinnamon. So she stuck a cinnamon shaker on the counter, put a little sprinkle of cinnamon. That's always the question when you get your pastel de nata. Do you want it just plain? Do you want it with cinnamon? Do you want it with powdered sugar? Or do you want it with a little of both? Usually, if they have cinnamon, I'll get it with a little sprinkle of cinnamon. Sometimes I'll do both if I'm feeling crazy. But this is an excellent pastel de nata. I can see why they won in 2022. Trying to stay hydrated today because it is hot in Lisbon, and I'm eating a lot of eggs and sugar and cream. So we're going to try to keep going. See a couple more places if we can on our Pastel de Nata Crawl today. So we're at our last stop of our second Pastel de Nata Crawl. We actually wanted to make one more stop. We went up to Pastelaria de Ney. I wanted to try their Pastel de Nata because they won Best Pastel de Nata in Lisbon in 2021. But we got there, closed, on vacation for the next 2 weeks. Oh well, we'll have to go back. So we're back in main part of Lisbon in the Chiado neighborhood, and this is called the Green Bean Cafe. In front they've got like an eco store with, you know, vegan belts and clothing and stuff like that. In the back they have a little grocery store, which is nice because they've got a bunch of bulk food, and then they've got stuff like soaps and shampoos and stuff that you can buy in bulk, so you're not getting them in plastic containers that you have to dispose of. They also have a cafe back there. And the food was pretty good. Had a salad and a nice little energy drink because, boy, it needed to pick me up after walking around today. We were taking the mass transit all day long. Here comes a car. We were taking mass transit all day long, so save ourselves steps, but still, we ended up walking like 5.5 miles today. So it's a little tired. Got to the Green Bean Cafe, and the reason why I wanted to come here is because they have a vegan pastel de nata, and I thought this would be a good way to close out the video. So here it is. I put a little bit of, sprinkled a little cinnamon on top, and we'll give it a try. All right, so that is much more light and fluffy. Almost has the texture of like a cake, doughiness to it. The crust, this is the typical thing with vegan pastel de natas. I've had a few of them. You just can't, it's impossible to get the same kind of flakiness and crispiness that you get with a regular pastel de nata that has dairy in it. It just isn't possible. At least I haven't seen one yet. That doesn't mean it's bad, but it's different, and you know, you're not going to get that flakiness. But it's interesting. I kind of like the custard, the so-called custard that's in this. So there you go. If you like this video, I did another video on pastel de nata. I'll have a link in the description so you can check that out as well. I think overall you know, you're going to want to go to Pastéis de Belém because they're the godfathers of Pastel de Nata in Lisbon. There's tons of other places to go to. The number one thing you want to look for is look for a place that says Fabrico Proprio. That means house-made Pastel de Nata, because there's plenty of places that are just churning them out in a factory and slinging them to all the different bakeries around town. But if they're making it in-house, Fabrico Proprio, you're much more likely to get a better product, and you're much more likely to get it fresh out of the oven, which is something that you definitely want to look for. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. See ya.